Hi guys, in today's video I'm going to be going over different loadouts for different certain game modes that you want to play. Like for example, I have a loadout for just in general, or this is my loadout that I used to use for macroing. This was my loadout for doing dungeons before, or raids and boss rushes before I got any of my monarch units. Or this one right here, this was for portals, for Christmas portals. I'm just gonna be going over different types of teams that you would use and how to correctly build your team. Let's get right into the video. First off, you usually want to make sure you check what game mode you're doing. For example, if you're gonna do story, bring units that are cheap to place down, so you could easily place down a unit at the start, because story isn't all that hard. Like if you hop into a story mode and you're a new player, maybe you'll have a mythic or two like Vegeta. Just get a Vegeta, plop him down right at the start of the map, and you don't have to worry about that anymore. Or if you're doing a harder mode, like say a boss event where it's pretty hard to do and you're trying to solo it, I suggest making a team full of high damage units that are good without traits. For example, if I go to my teams, this is the team that I mainly use for everything. I also use this for boss rushes. Let me just unequip all these real quick, just so I could show you guys how to build your team properly. Let's even unequip this team. First off, you have 6 slots, right? I like to use 2 slots for farms, so I like to dedicate 2 slots to farms. You can order these however you want. I'm just gonna order it like this. I like to have 2 farms. Usually I'll have 2. Some people like to have 1 because they could have more support units. But it just depends on what you're doing. So you want to bring 2 farms. Want to bring 1 support unit. The support unit is just there to help you out, like stun the units, slow the enemies, maybe like a burn unit just to do extra DPS so that you could get the whatever you're doing done faster. I personally like to bring Fubuki for her stun, because I honestly think stun is better than slow. It's just a personal thing. I'm pretty sure like Amelia is slightly better, or I don't know. I personally use Fubuki also because of her passive, where she makes it so that her enemies or her allies get 5% less SPA, which is pretty good. It might seem like a little number, but in the future, like whenever you're doing something, it's pretty good. And her second passive is anytime an ally is in this unit's range, has a static effect afflicted to them, this unit will cleanse them. So let's say that if a unit like in her range, I'm pretty sure it's just 1, if I'm not wrong. Oh, actually, no. Yeah, it applies to 1 unit. So basically, like if a unit is like, let's say, debuffed, where they do less damage. Like if you're doing the Saber boss rush and she debuffs your units, then bring her, and I'm pretty sure she should make your units normal again. That's why I personally prefer Fubuki. For your last 3 slots, usually you'd bring a lot of DPS. Me personally, I bring Aizen and my Igris, but this is just because I have Monarch on them. If I didn't have Monarch on these characters, I'd probably still bring Aizen because he's insanely good. I'd probably bring Esdeath, and then maybe like if I could evolve Gilgamesh, which I'm planning on doing, I'd bring Gilgamesh. You just want to make sure you kind of like balance your team out. Like if you have Vegeta, or if you have Gogeta, make sure you bring Gogeta, because it doesn't matter what trait he has, he's a good character. He does a ton of damage, even though he doesn't have a good trait. So, like if you have like any Vanguard unit, I'd suggest bringing him on your team. Of course, if you don't have a Vanguard unit, then go ahead and use another unit, like let's say Gilgamesh or Aizen, because I already used those 2 as examples. Since they have so much potential and they do so much damage, then these are really good characters, and they should always go on your team. I'm just gonna use this Gilgamesh because he's not evolved, but he's pretty good. And then for your last slot, usually you want to have a balance. You want to have a DPS but also a support. So how Fubuki is a stun, you want to have maybe like a Esdeath or Gojo as a stun unit to freeze the boss. Because if you didn't know, Esdeath and Gojo, they have freeze abilities that last for quite a bit. So does Aizen, right? But it's honestly better than these guys, but you always want to bring an extra, freeze or stun unit. So honestly, between these 2, maybe even if you have Diego, I never got Diego because I didn't grind the raids that much because I didn't really care about Diego. But if you have Diego, just any unit that could like synergize with your team. Like let's say instead of bringing Gilgamesh, I wanted to bring Igris. Then to buff Igris, I would probably bring Sun Jinwoo, right? Because Sun Jinwoo and Igris synergize together, and Igris does more damage with Sun Jinwoo. Or let's say I'm making a full team with let's say Fate units. I'd bring Gilgamesh, Saber, and then I'd also bring any other Fate units I have, and I wouldn't forget to bring my Ishtar because Ishtar buffs your Fate unit. So it all depends on what units you have and what event you want to do and how you use them. So if you're gonna macro, like let's say if you're macroing, use a character like Rem and Ram, or a character like an epic character. Like personally, I used to use Piccolo back in the day, back in like the start of this game, because he was that good. Or for example, let's say you're grinding boss events manually, bring a character that you can has complex abilities that you can make sure to use every time because you're at your computer, you know. Or frick, if you want like change out your stun or support units and bring Amelia because she slows, or bring Lucy because of her passive, which makes them nullifies the enemy, or not nullify, removes their resistance on the enemy. Like these things can make or break your team. So you always got to make sure using the right loadout, the right units, the correct units. And yeah, if you guys have any more questions that you want to ask, if you guys need any more help with making a loadout or something, feel free to join my Discord and just ask up. You know, I'm free to help. You know, I'm always active. I'll help you guys out if I can. And have a good day or night, guys. Bye bye.